This meeting of the Watuppa Water Board will come to order. Mr. Furley, if you will proceed with the roll call.
President Pearson,
Present.
Member Pennell,
Here.
and he is remotely. Member Ferrer.
Here.
The open meeting law reads as follows. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Mr. Furlan, continue with the agenda, please.
Item number 1 is the minutes of the previous meeting. That's the July 9th, 2020 meeting. I have reviewed the minutes.
Is there a motion to accept the previous minutes?
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion is unanimous.
Roll call vote, please, if we could. President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
Here. Yes.
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda.
Item number 2 would be the abatements. So the staff has prepared a list of qualifying abatements. There is 3 denials within that, within your package, 2 of them because they were not doubled. The third one is because this property already had an abatement within the past 5 years, and the abatement policy doesn't allow multiple abatements within 5 years. The totals of the abatements as proposed to you is in the amount of $8,666.66.
Question, is there any of these that are repeat,
Repeat meaning?
that they came before us before?
Not within 5 years.
Yeah, none of these have come before you before.
Thank you, Mr. Ty. I'll make a motion to accept the report.
Second.
Roll call on the motion.
President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Excellent. Item number 3 that you have in front of you is there's 2 separate conservation restrictions from the Buzzards Bay Coalition. One of them is for the Yellow Hill Road property that the Water Department acquired about a year ago, and the other one is the Copacut Road. If you'd like, we can start with the Indian Town Road property that was purchased. It was also referred to through our conversations as the Damaris property. We have Mr. Alan Decker here from the Buzzards Bay Coalition. These restrictions have gone through the Conservation Commission already. They've been approved by them. The other thing with this property is also the baseline document report that they did. I think if members went through the baseline document, it was very comprehensive, very, very good. And what that does, it gives us a starting point of where to go, so that in the future they're able to make sure that the property doesn't change much. And if you want, I can Mr. Decker or Mike.
Can I just put a
Yep.
point? So I just wanted to say that the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, has been just tremendous in terms of funding some of our land conservation work that we've been doing. And one of the requirements when they give us a grant to buy conservation land for water supply protection, one of the requirements is that we file we have a conservation restriction recorded on that property. The conservation restriction has to be held by a third party, and we've done this a couple of other times. We've done this with the Mass Wildlife for property we bought off East Line Trail, and we did this with the Department of Conservation and Recreation for a property we bought on Copacut Road. So this is something we've been doing routinely. This is the first time we've had an opportunity to partner with the Buzzards Bay Coalition, and we have quite a great working relationship with Buzzards Bay. It was over 20 years ago that we first worked, Buzzards Bay first worked in the city to help us do our first open space plan in 1998. And then when the Bioreserve, the Southeastern Mass Bioreserve came about, Buzzards Bay was really instrumental in helping bring the parties together, the landowner, a couple of state agencies, the trustees of reservations, and the city. So we go back a long way, but this is the first time that the coalition has held conservation restrictions on water department property, and in fact, there are two different properties, which I'm going to turn the mic over to Alan Decker, and he will describe how that goes.
Is Greg here good?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. As was mentioned, I'm Alan Decker. I'm the Director of Land Protection with Buzzards Bay Coalition. Very happy to be with you this evening. As was also mentioned, this first property, the Damaris property, I want to call it Demarais, and I was corrected at Concom, they didn't call it over, it's Damaris. So, in any case, this, as Mike mentioned, this property has already been acquired by the water department, and our role is to help compliance with the CPA statute, the permanent protection of the property. We're very happy to do so. This is drinking water supply protection oriented. The city, through the water department, is not looking to do anything unusual or out of the ordinary with like their other ownership. They've reserved the ability to have appropriate passive recreation on the property if desired at some point in the future. Trails, possibility. Habitat management, vegetation management, forestry, sort of all the other things that the water department would do under its land management of its other properties. They are closing out the potential for any development of the property. As I said, we're happy to hold the CR, and I know you've had the opportunity to see the documents. I do have color maps if that's helpful. I'm happy to hand them up to you at this time, but it's not necessary. It's just simply as a courtesy if the chair would like them.
That's quite all right, unless a board member wishes them.
Thank you.
Fair enough. What I'm seeking tonight is the board's vote to approve granting of the conservation restriction to the Buzzards Bay Coalition. As was mentioned, I've been in front of the Conservation Commission, provided the municipal certification, which speaks to the conservation values being protected by the CR, and evidences their support for the project. My next step after this meeting would be to go in front of City Council and seek their approval and approval from the mayor's office, just to complete the process, get it on record, and then be able to report that it's done, so that compliance with the statute will be evidence.
Mr. Decker, a question,
Yes.
please.
Of course.
I don't believe you were there. I don't think Mr. Labasia was there. But this matter did come before the city council as a matter of discussion only. I don't know if there was a vote taken. You would know better than I, Paul.
For these particular parcels and the particular, so the parcels were in front of city council for the purchase, approval of the purchase, but the particular conservation restriction hasn't been in front of council
Okay.
yet.
That clarifies that part.
Yep, so that's what would need to go back in front of
Because I was about to question why we weren't in the first step of this proceeding instead of the last step, because it's, to the average layperson, they have no idea what we're talking about.
Of course.
And I like to keep things clear for those people
Absolutely.
watching this proceeding. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, you can proceed or hand it over to Mike, whatever you like.
Go ahead.
No, thank you very much. There is a second very similar project on Yellow Hill Road, the former Costa Mello property,
Mm-hmm.
being treated. It's a 37.5 acre property, being treated in the very same management style with the city. Buzzards Bay Coalition would be the holder. Again, drinking water protection is the main purpose for the acquisition and the protection. passive recreation, I mean, it's almost in lockstep with the Damaris property. It's just gonna fit in. These are additional holdings in the existing bioreserve. So the city was strategic in acquiring them. We're very happy to, as was said, comply with CPA and hold the conservation restriction. Happy to answer any particular questions about Costamello or Damaris, but again, I'd be seeking a vote from the board for the approval of granting the conservation restriction to the Buzzards Bay Coalition.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Hearing none, I have a question. Which one of these parcels, when we talk about them, is what they so-called call landlocked? And I don't believe it is landlocked. I believe you can get from one to another. So,
I'm not aware of either of these parcels being considered landlocked. Is Indian Town Road improved at that point?
Neither one of these are landlocked, they both have road frontage.
how much frontage, Mike?
I believe Indian Town Road has almost 600, actually a little over 600 feet. And Yellow Hill Road, I don't have it in front of me, but I am.
But I have it, I can do it for you.
It may be in a similar range.
So,
Bear with me
so just for clarity, the parcels that were recently discussed in front of council, that we would just approve to purchase with CPC funding is not these parcels.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that it's clear. These are separate parcels that were purchased about a year ago.
That's what I was trying to clarify.
Right, and CPC funding was from the prior fiscal year CPC funding, so it's separate parcels. The ones that were recently discussed at the council meeting are separate parcels, which will eventually go through a similar process. So the purchase of these parcels went in front of CPC. The purchase of these parcels went in front of the water board. They went down to the council, approved by the council. And now this is just the conservation restriction. We've actually had ownership of these for like roughly a year and a half.
So we closed a year and a half.
Yeah, we've had ownership of these, but just to comply with the CPC regulations, the conservation restrictions are required.
I only mentioned that for point of clarification. I've been pretty much aware of all of this.
Yep. Nope, without a doubt, just want to make sure.
But I don't think the average person at home has maps like this. And we have people who are hands-on, so I try to feed the other two commissioners when possible, any information I get. And I know you try to feed me, but the average citizen, I'm sorry to say, they don't know Indian Town Road from Copacut until you get out there, and then you realize where you are.
Sure. Mr. Chair, to answer your question, I do have frontages for you if you'd like them.
Please.
The Indian Town Road property has 500 feet of, 620 feet of frontage on Indian Town Road.
Okay.
And the Costamello property on Yellow Hill Road
Yeah.
has approximately 500 feet of frontage.
Very good, thank you.
You're very welcome.
There being no other questions from the commission, Mr. Furlan, is there need a vote on the matter?
Yeah, so I think the best thing would be to take these two, the two
Separate?
parcels totally separate, accepting if the board chooses to accept the conservation restriction, and also accept the baseline document report. If you'd like, we can
Take
start
the
with.
restriction first.
Yep, we can take the Indian Town Road parcel, the Damaris property, the conservation restriction number 5.
Is there a motion on restriction 5?
Make a motion to approve the conservation restriction as written.
Motion is unanimous?
Roll call vote, President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Okay. The baseline document for Damaris, Indian Town Road property.
Is there a motion on this property? I'll make a motion.
Second.
Roll call vote, President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thank you for your presentation.
So we have the Costamello property, which would be conservation restriction, also known as the Copacut Road property, conservation restriction number 4.
Make a motion to approve the conservation restriction as written.
Second motion,
Roll call vote, President Pearson,
yes.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Okay, and then we also have the baseline documentation report for the Costamello property on Copacut Road, sorry.
That's just a motion to accept the report.
Yep,
I'll make a motion to
Second.
accept the report. Motion is seconded. I believe it's unanimous.
President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Just the signatures.
Yeah.
All those,
Can I give these to you? I just, if you don't mind, the, I just printed the CR pages on, bond paper. And coordinate with Mike to get the big, can you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your efforts.
Look forward to another opportunity to be in front of you. I hear there might be some coming down the road.
We're working hard.
Very good.
Anything to improve our way of life, we're all for it.
Great. Thank you very
excellent.
much.
Thank you
you.
guys very much.
All right.
Mr. Labasi, if you could hang back for a few minutes, unless you need to escort him to his car or something.
I don't believe so.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Decker.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Item number 4 on the agenda is the regional interconnect analysis. This is a contract for Woodward and Current in the amount of $134,200. This contract is being presented to you. What we're working on, and we received an MVP, Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant, for the majority of this work. This is going to take, and it's going to study the interconnects that we have to other towns. We know we have one to Freetown that's active, Westport that's active, and North Tiverton that's active. Westport and Freetown wouldn't be able to supply us water, we only supply them water. North Tiverton doesn't produce their own water, but they get water from Stonebridge and could potentially feed us with water in an emergency situation. The other interconnect that we have is a pipe that goes underneath the river over to Somerset. That pipe hasn't been used in probably since the mid-80s, from my understanding. What I'd like to do is do a study to see whether that connection is still viable, to see whether it's still in usable shape. So I've been in talks with Somerset, Swansea, and Dayton, because Somerset connects to Dayton. Somerset and Swansea's connections are very close. So what we'd all like to do is go into this study together, be able to fully understand how we all connect to each other, and who would be able to supply water in either an emergency case or on a normal regular supply basis, if somebody, one of the communities ran into issues with one of their plants or one of their supply wells or something like that. The whole entire project, as I said, is $134,200. We're getting a grant reimbursement from MVP for a portion of the project. We will be paying a portion of the project. Somerset will be paying a portion. Dayton and Swansea.
Equal portions?
Yeah, we all divided it up. Our portion is a little bit higher, because the other thing that I'm having them do through this, so part of the MVP grant program is they like to see public outreach. So I kind of beefed up our public outreach portion of it, including a website and an interactive website for the bioreserve in the Fall River reservation in our conservation area. That's one thing that I think that would really help us get the word out about what goes on in the full bioreserve, plus also the Fall River conservation land that we hold and maintain over there. I think that's something that would be good. MVP, the MVP program really likes that type of public outreach. And that plays into the interconnection because we have such a large watershed up there. That's why we're kind of we're kind of the large water supplier out of the group that's meeting. We would be able to supply other communities without an issue as long as our interconnection underneath the river is in good shape. Our bioreserve and our watershed protection land helps us be able to do that. So that's how that was interconnected into the whole entire program. So our portion is a bit more, but all of the everything that's going to be shared is a shared cost between the four communities. The other thing, Dayton's share was a bit higher as well because they requested some additional GIS mapping. We will have intermunicipal agreements with the other communities for reimbursement. We'll pay out the cost and then they'll reimburse us the cost of the grant. The grant was fully was applied for by the city of Fall River with the other communities involved, but we'll be administering the grant and we'll be managing the grant. We are an MVP community. Some of the other communities were still working on their designation. As I said, I think we're kind of the bigger one in the group, so I think it worked out good where we were able to manage and control the grant. So.
2 points, Mr. Furlan.
Yes.
This money tonight is simply for the study.
Yes.
My second point is, if everybody is familiar with the Quabbin Reservoir, which is in the Blue Hills and feeds most of the surrounding towns of Boston, they are the largest reservoir in the state. We are very close to second, I believe. But that's what we're looking at, are we not? Something of that nature?
Not looking. So the Quabbin's run by the MWRA, and the
Right.
MWRA they run all the way from the middle of the state, pretty much out to Boston. They
We're
supply-
monitored by the state.
Yeah, they supplied Boston their water. You know, we're not looking to become MWRA. We're looking to prevent emergencies or issues in the future to make sure that we have working interconnects. And if somebody else has issues or needs water, all of us are in a place to be able to help each other out.
So if it's deemed that the pipe under the Taunton River is corroded or not usable, that's the end of the project.
We would still go through the study, and then personally, I think it would be a worthwhile step to take a look to see what it would take to rehab that pipe.
So you'd have to come back to us again.
Yeah, you know, exactly. If the project goes any further, if there's any issues, you know, we're gonna start with the study of the pipe and the type of water that comes out of the pipe, the flow through the pipe and stuff like that to determine the, you know, how intact the pipe is.
Is a lot of
and
this
how we
because
use
some
it.
of the wells in Swansea and Somerset are getting,
That wasn't the
Beyond.
driving factor. Some other communities are having issues. This year around the state, there's been multiple issues due to a drought condition throughout the state. The Drought Control Board has been meeting almost every week due to the issues that we've had this summer. You know, again, you know, and it's not just us to be able to sell water to them. You know, you think about a little over a year ago, 2 years ago now, when we had two of our main finished water pumps go down at our water treatment plant. You know, we had to bring in a separate diesel pump to be able to supplement the two pumps that we had in place. If we had an interconnect and we were comfortable with it and it was usable, we could have potentially got water from Somerset rather than bearing the cost of bringing in a mobile pump unit to be able to supplement our system. Same thing when we had an issue down at a plant last year with the 36-inch main that feeds out of the plant. You know, to have that security and that backup is something that I think is essential to being able to continue to supply the water to the 100,000 people that we do.
with the Somerset, Dayton, Swansea, that's gonna enlarge our capabilities, obviously. Will we require more pumps? at the treatment plant?
It wouldn't require anything more for us. Again, so Somerset's good, they have enough water right now. Dayton's working on their water supplies.
Because to me, that's not, it seems like it's running water uphill.
Yeah,
Which is kinda
Swansea-
hard to do.
Well, not really. You think about what our high point is, and that's something else that they're gonna look at is the hydraulic grade line and the
Right.
difference, the potential difference between the systems. You know, back in the 80s, I can tell you, our Fall River's hydraulic grade line was right in line with Somerset's. But that doesn't mean that they haven't changed their, how they monitor their water quality, because they've had a big change in their system. They had the power plant that went away, and they have, so they had a drop in usage, which increases the water age, which, you know, potentially causes some water quality issues. So, you know, I don't know what the hydraulic grade line is, so that's something that's gonna be looked at through this study to see, what the difference is. So that's, you know, part of the study. To add any pumpage, if we were to have to supply to anybody else, we wouldn't have to add any additional pumps. We have additional capacity, so we used to be pumping 14 to 17 million gallons a day out of our plant when we had the textile facilities in the city. Now we're down to 10 or 11 million gallons a day, so we have the pump capacity. We have the capacity within our system to be able to supply anybody else if anybody else did need to be supplied.
Are there any other questions from the commission?
In regards to the line that runs under the river, to what extent are we looking at that?
So we're gonna go in there and we're gonna start off doing some salinity tests on the water that's within there. Then we're gonna, as long as everything the results come back okay, then we'll start with some flow tests, flushing of the line and flow test. We'll probably chlorinate it just to make sure that there's no issues when we connect it into a system. After that, we'll probably end up doing a pressure test, just to figure out.
That's really my question.
Yeah, we're gonna start, rather than just throwing pressure in it, we're gonna start, you know, different steps to make sure that, make sure the structural integrity is good before we actually do a full-blown pressure test.
Hearing no other questions, is there a motion to accept the report? And,
Second?
A roll call vote, President Pearson,
no.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer,
Yes.
Motion passes 2-1.
Item number 5, Phase 20 Water Main Replacement Agreement. In your packets, you have the Phase 20 water main replacement. The authorization was approved by this board and the council to move forward with it. The contract is with Stantec Engineering in the amount of $539,000. So this covers the full design of the project, bidding, construction management, and resident inspection within the project. The streets that would be covered within this project, Bowler Street from Quarry to Carlissa, Carr Street from County to Keene, Coolidge Street from Hemlock to Weedamo, Notre Dame Street from St. Joseph to Pleasant, Pittman Street from East Warren to Webster, Provost Street from Pleasant to McGowan, Quarry Street from Pleasant to Hargraves, Renaud Street from Kennedy to Powell, Rubin Street from Quarry to Quikasham, Roper Street from Hurst to Smithies, Ryan Street from Brayton to Omen, Webster Street from Alden to Pleasant, Weybosset Street from Pleasant to Wamsutta. The total length of pipe planned to be replaced within this project is 8,665 feet of water main. Lead services to be removed is 14. This project does have SRF funding already approved in line. SRF funding does not cover the design portion of the contract, but it does.
Excuse me, Mr. Furlan, could you please explain to the viewers what SRF means?
Yep, so SRF is the State Revolving Fund.
Thank you.
So that's the loan program that we get through the Mass Water Trust, and also DEP administers the program. What this provides us is a low interest, 2% loan on any of the bidding or construction activities of the project. The other thing that it does do, since we're a EJC community, it provides us the availability to get a principal reduction.
I hate to interrupt you, but please explain what AJC means.
Yeah, EJC, Economic Justice Community, is a rating system. Most of the gateway cities that have economic issues with the residents within their city are eligible underneath that. That's a designation from the state. So we're able to we get a principal reduction, which means that they give us back money to reduce the principal that we owe on the loan. So essentially, they'll give us a grant back on the money that we borrow. In the past, when the program first started, the principal reduction program, it was as high as 30%. Most recently, we've seen them around 12% principal reduction. So that's a grant that's given back on the overall bidding, construction management, and construction of the project. So this contract would be with Stantec. They've been doing our water main design for a number of years. We're happy with their ability to be able to perform this work. We're extremely happy with their on-site resident inspector that they have. This year, so just to break it down, the task one, which is the design, is $197,000. The construction management and oversight is $342,000. Again, this is almost a mile and a half of pipe, so it's over a mile and a half of pipe. So there is some good footage of pipe in this year's contract. So this would be designed through this winter, and then we'd look for a spring bid and then construction next summer.
All of the construction is currently going on in the city. Now, I notice most of these streets, it would seem at least, are to the south of Bedford. Is that not correct?
Yeah, a number of them are correct.
I'd say almost all of them, but I have seen Santec's work, and I would agree with you with your comments. They seem to be doing a very good job. Is there a motion on the floor pertaining to the contract?
Second.
Motion passes unanimous. Roll call, Mr. Furlan.
President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
yes,
Member Ferrer.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimous.
Excellent, thank you. The next item on your agenda is a meter non-compliance policy. That's what I called it. So as we're going through the large meter replacement project, and we've had this issue for a number of years, we're running into issues where the property owner just isn't working with us. You know, we go out, we send our staff out to make contact with them, and we survey the meter and stuff like that. Our contractor goes out, you know, to do a survey to correct size and stuff like that. And sometimes the property owner is just non-responsive when we can open the door for us. Or they meet with us and then they say, well, no, I'm not good, I don't want this done. Or, you know, they have an issue with their internal plumbing, which by ordinance they're supposed to have proper valves to shut off above and below the meter. You know, and they're like, oh, well, we're not doing it, we're not fixing it or anything like that. So we kind of get into a stalemate, and it's tough to be able to motivate the property owner to be able to get them so that, A, they're following the ordinance, and we're able to get accurate readings on the meters. What we've come up with is a policy that, you know, if we feel that we've gone through every possible option to be able to work with this property owner and be able to work with them to accommodate their needs, so that we can get to a point where we're getting accurate water meter readings, and they're getting charged the correct amount, is we would like to increase their bill by 20% per billing cycle until they comply with the ordinance. Again, the ordinance states specifically that that the water meter is owned by the Watuppa Water Board. The Watuppa Water Board has the right to go in and inspect it, on the administrator of the community utilities. You know, the payment should be correctly metered for the amount of water that goes through the property. You know, we're in this meter replacement program right now, and we're investing a substantial amount of money, the water board is, to make sure that we are accurately billing our customers with new water meters being installed. To get to the point where a property owner isn't allowing us to do that, when we are paying for the meters, just isn't a good step. You know, if we weren't in the meter replacement project and a private owner needed to replace their meter, you know, if we deemed that their meter was inaccurate and it needed to be replaced, the full burden of the cost of the meter replacement would be on the property owner. Because we're replacing more than 10% of the meters, by ordinance, the water department has to pay for the meter replacement. So that's what this policy would do, you know, and has done. We've worked with some of the owners, and typically once an owner gets a letter like this, they call us right up and they're like, hey, you know, we want to make sure you get the correct readings. We need to know what to do. You know, sometimes they're just non-responsive because they just don't have the time or don't want to deal with it. Once they get something that's gonna affect them financially, then they're more responsive.
Would I be correct in saying that the majority of the problem is probably absentee landlords?
I don't know too. So this is the majority of this is with larger buildings. Not so much absentee landlords. Maybe you know, somebody that has a mill complex and it's their maintenance man that we're dealing with, and he doesn't want to go to the owner and say, hey, you've got to spend, you know, or you have to, or they have to come in and do this, and it's, you know, and so I think sometimes it's a breakdown in a communication on their end, but once they get the official letters and they say, oh, well, this is really going to affect us, then, you know, we typically get a good response out of them.
Single-family homes involved at all?
This policy would comply to all property owners. Again, primarily, we've been looking at it with large meter users. But if we got into, typically homeowners, we're a lot easier to deal with because you're talking to the homeowner right on the
Right.
doorstep.
Right.
You know, we do have issues where we have had issues in the past, and you know, water shut off, if it gets to that point, is one. If there's blatant ignorance and waste of water, you know, we have shut off, and that's a tactic that we would use in that situation.
We're also very fearful of health problems if we shut off water.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. That's not something that we're doing now, and it would only take extreme drastic measures for us to be able to do that. But that has been done in years past. You know, right now I think this policy is a good policy for us to move forward through with this water meter replacement project. This is going to give us some teeth behind, you know, because Tom calls, I call, you know, and they're out, well, you're not going to do anything, you know. This will give us some bite behind what we're able to do. You know, we don't wanna damage anybody with this, we just wanna be able to get an accurate meter in there, charge them for the water that they're using. We don't wanna overcharge them, we don't wanna undercharge them. If they have bad meters in their property and we're sending estimated bills, we very well may be overcharging them, we very well may be undercharging them. It's a 50-50 shot, depending on who's moved in of the complex, who's moved out, or stuff like that. You know, we try to get it as close as possible, but, you know, once the water's going through that meter, you know, we know what goes through that meter.
Any questions from the commission? Hearing none, I have a question. Do you feel that this may affect our lien process?
This wouldn't affect the lien, I don't feel that this will affect the lien process. You know, the policy's in place. This will be on to estimated bills primarily. Estimated bills will be following this policy, working on those estimated bills. So I feel that the bills will still be enforceable and collectible, and that would be the only thing that would affect our lien policy, but no, I don't feel it'll affect it at all.
For those people who watch this on TV, I'll explain that the water board is set up for a couple of reasons. One, we set policy, which this is a policy. The other is we perform oversight. That means the commissioners can go out to job sites and witness and actually go to homes with a city worker. We'd never go alone. But that is the responsibilities of this board. I don't think that's been explained, but we'll do that now. But at this time, I'll ask, is there a motion to accept the policy and enact it?
Just an additional question.
Yes, please.
So the intent is to extend this to all meter sizes, not just large meters, correct?
Yes.
Right. Is there a motion?
Make a motion. Second.
Motion passes unanimous.
President Pearson,
Yes.
Member Pennell,
Yes.
Member Ferrer,
Yes.
thank you. The next item agenda within your packet, and I haven't seen it in a while because we haven't had many active ongoing contracts besides the water meter replacement, but we do have Phase 19 water main replacement ongoing. CJP and Sons is the contractor of that project. So they started about 2 months ago. They completed Ray Street, the install of the main. They've completed President Ave, the install of the main. Currently, as of today, they're over on Barrett Street doing the main install over there.
I saw the water running down the street as I came here.
Yeah, they were probably flushing the bypass on Rock Street. I probably drove down Rock Street. So Rock Street, they have their bypass laid out, and they'll be moving over there probably within the next week or so. They'll also be jumping back to do services on Ray, President Ave. Contract is confident that they'll be able to complete the project this construction season. They're about 10% done by the contract, by contract payment, 66% done by time. But they are confident that they'll be able to complete it. They have been, so far, they have been performing quality work, so we've been happy with their work so far. So that's just a update on the current ongoing contract. Just one other thing that I wanted to go over in contract updates is the water meter replacement project. As the board knows, this has been going on for a while. Just to kind of let out for the public, the water meter replacement project, we're currently, we do still have some large meters to replace. Majority of them are completed, but we still are working with our contractor to do meter replacements and AMR replacements on residential properties. So about 50% of the city is done with the AMR replacements, so that's the gray box that goes on the side of the house that sends out the radio signal for us to be able to remotely read your meter. We still have to go back to figuring about 10 to 12% of the houses we're going to have to enter because there's either a problem with the wire or the meter head or something. So we're going to have to enter those properties, and they'll be replacing the meters on those properties. The contractor, WMS, subsidy of Felch Engineering, has provided us with a COVID control plan, so that all of their staff protects both their staff and also the public. They have a certain scheduling procedure. They're gonna start to send out appointment invitations. So we did one round back in February, and then March, when the COVID started, we stopped entering properties or requesting to enter properties at that time. We feel that we need to keep this project moving to be able to get to the completion of it. So we feel comfortable that with there's enough information now about COVID, there's enough information about the PPE and the proper standards that you can take to protect yourself and others. So we feel comfortable that the contractor will be able to move forward with entering properties. If you look at the screen there, that's just a picture of one of the installers that you may see around the neighborhoods. They are in fully reflective vest, yellow vest. They have a face mask that says WMS on it. They're in leaded vehicles that say WMS or Felch Engineering on them. So you know, they'll be there. If they are there to replace the AMR on the side of the house, so the gray box on the side of the house, they typically don't make contact with the homeowner. So the same thing when one of our water service inspectors go to replace the AMR, they typically don't make contact with the homeowner. You know, they'll go up to the side of the house, install the AMR box, and then leave. If they need to enter your property to replace the meter or anything like that, you will get a mailing. You'll get a card in the mail that says, please call this number to schedule an appointment. You'll then call the number, schedule the appointment. Once the appointment's scheduled, the personnel from WMS will show up for that scheduled appointment. If anybody else comes and knocks on the door and says we need to get in to see your water meter, and they're not water department property, or you don't have a pre-scheduled appointment with WMS or Felch Engineering, they should not be let into the house.
We mentioned earlier about the towns we were supplying water to. Are we gonna be doing this to the residences that we supply water to in the surrounding towns?
Not in the surrounding towns. We sell the water to the surrounding towns by a meter right at the town line, and we sell them based on what goes through that meter at the town line. They're responsible for metering and billing their own customers.
And you brought up COVID. As of right now, there is no concern about our water supply.
Nope, again, I'm still, they've switched the DEP meetings now to monthly meetings. I have been on, they started out weekly, went to bi-weekly, and are now on monthly, and they're still through DEP, EPA, and the CDC. There has not been any concern or any emphasis put on COVID or the spread of COVID through drinking water. Our drinking water has a residual of chlorine that's in the system, which is the disinfectant that's used within our system, and that's throughout the whole entire system. So there is no concern of spreading COVID or drinking water having COVID.
Very good, thank you. Anything else?
Nope, that kind of brings us up to date.
All right, I have a couple of things I'd like to address, if you'll just bear with me for a moment.
Yep.
Tonight we have Mr. Labasi here, and I don't get a chance, I don't think the board gets a chance often enough to let the public know what kind of work this gentleman does. There are occasions when I have minor gripes, and Mike's always there to answer them. He never hangs up on me, he just doesn't answer the phone. No, that's not true. But as you can see, if you watch cable TV, Fred TV, and so on, Mike's on there as much as Alex Trebek is on Channel 10. But he's always working for the betterment of the city. And I'd just like to thank him publicly for that. Mike, good job. Any questions from the commission or comments? Mr. Pennell? Mr. Ferrera?
Nope.
If you could give us an update on the, what I call the outcrop buildings by the water treatment plant, what is the status? Are we going to knock them down, replace one or none?
So by the water treatment plant, there's,
The two brick buildings that were guard shacks at one time, I believe, they go out into the water.
so there's two, there's one that's
Right.
brick, that's by the 1950s electric station, and then the granite one that's by the 1875. The 1875, there's no anticipation to demolish that. That's was slated for repair. It was put on hold for a while. I hope sometime in the near future to resurrect.
Because of budget restrictions? Or?
Because of money, it was one thing that kind of got put to the wayside. You know, we had a couple of issues down there that we dealt with. The finished water pumps and the 36-inch things came up, and you know, didn't want to get too many people in one spot. The 1950s electric station is still slated to be demolished. That again, with all the other projects that we had going on down there, that was just put on hold for now until we were able to get to a good place. You know, we had the interceptor cleaning, we had bypass out for a couple of months with the leak on the 36-inch. We had the two finished water pumps go down, and we're just finishing reconstructing the last of the four now. So, you know, there was just a lot going on, but that still is slated to be completed. So both the building that goes out into the water, the red brick one, and also the red brick 1950s station.
I don't see any high priority on either one.
No, again, when we did the work on the 36-inch and we had the bypass laid out, one of the big things with that 1950 station is all the pipes that went into that building were still live. So there was a 24, a 20, and a 16 that fed into that building off of the 36 that were still live. With the rework next to the area that was leaking, we were able to cut off all those mains that ran into that building. So that was a big portion of unknown work within that demolition that we now is strictly determined they're cut off and we don't have to worry about it. So there was work that was being done, but again, it's not detrimental to anything at the way it sits. So.
Thank you. In the water treatment plant, we have 4 pumps?
There's 4 finished water pumps and 4 raw water pumps.
Okay. There's one that's still not connected electrically?
So as of yesterday, it was hooked up. It was about a month ago that it was supposed to go back online.
Right, I remember you saying that.
Yeah, we put it back. We hooked up the pump and everything, put it back online. There was a leak on the mechanical seal that was installed. So the mechanical seal had to be pulled, which required the pump to be unwired. When we did that, we evaluated the Paco valve and also the butterfly valve that were downstream from there. The Paco valve we had to remove and have fully rebuilt on the interior. The butterfly valve was bad and we had to replace. So we completed that work. As of yesterday, the mechanical seal went back in and the pump's been running since.
Very good. Some time ago, I asked you if you could arrange a meeting with myself, you, Mike, if necessary, and the police officer who is in charge of the EPOs. How did that turn out?
So, you know, it's something that's still kind of slated to be done with everything going on with the COVID and other issues. Haven't been able to get that meeting scheduled yet, but I know that was something that you were concerned about. You were concerned about some illegal ATV and dirt bike activity over on off of Wilson Road. I know Mike went out there multiple times and has used the backhoe to put blockades in there. And every time we do that, it seems they find another route around.
I would say 90% of the problem is almost solved most of the time. I mean, like you say, they do create new ways, but that's dirt bikes as opposed to ATVs. ATVs are doing a job on our real estate as far as saplings. Pine trees grow maybe 2 feet a year vertically, horizontally, not so much, but they're a quick growing tree, but if you try to tear them up with an ATV wheel, it just spits them out and they're not going to grow. Mike is the expert on that. I should refer to him. But he's been out there with his crew, and it's kind of like a losing battle. So I urge the public, if your son or daughter or you have an ATV, please keep it out of our reservation. You're going to hurt the environment more than you know. Mike, you have any comments, please?
Well, not about that so much. That's kind of an isolated, you know, the Wilson Road issue is a little bit of a cat and mouse thing.
It's the whole Meridian Street
We
area.
stay ahead of it, and I don't think it's so bad. I just wanted to make one point. You kind of caught me off guard with your kind words, and I appreciate that.
That's
But
why I
just
did
wanted
it.
to remember that a byproduct of the water, you know, the watershed protection that we do to protect the water supply is this great recreation facility that we have. We have thousands and thousands of acres, and this year, for the first time, United Way is holding its annual fundraiser in the Watuppa Reservation. It's actually starting tomorrow. It's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There's a 1 mile walk in the Tattapanum Trail, which is on Wilson Road. There's a 10-mile bicycle or a mountain bike route, and there's a 10K you know, trail running route that's been set up. And this is, like I said, it's their annual fundraiser. It's the first time, though, we've partnered with them, and you know, they've looked at the Watuppa Reservation and they said, what a great you know, what a great resource for the city. And so, you know, part of our cooperation and participation with them is to sort of get the word out that for passive recreation, hiking, mountain biking, you know, trail running, in some areas dog walking, bird watching, at the Copacut Reservoir shoreline fishing, these things are all available to the public. And
Please reiterate, that's the Copacut, not the North
the
Watuppa.
Copacut Reservoir, which is it's in the far east end of the city.
Right.
And really, to get there, you got to drive through Westport and Dartmouth to get there. It's such a big expanse, this section of Fall River, but it's available for the public to use. It's free. It's expansive. It's quiet. It's a beautiful part of the city, and I just encourage people to take advantage of it.
Starting at what time tomorrow?
So this is a virtual with the new protocols due to COVID-19. Whereas in the past they would have you know, they would have these events that would be, say, a trail run, for example, would be a starting gun and everybody runs at the same time. This is going to be virtual, and there's a lot of activities that are virtual these days. So tomorrow, it's something like from 9 to 2 or something like that for the next 4 days. There'll be, I believe the United Way will have a kind of a table out there to receive people. We'll have bioreserve trail maps, which if you stopped by, this is going to be at the corner of Wilson and Riggenback Road. So they'll have a presence. People have already registered. There's over 200 people going to participate over the 4 days. It might be even pushing 300 at this point. And I think at 10 o'clock tomorrow there'll be a little kickoff event. And but for the most part, people will just come out on their own during those times. Presumably they've registered. They'll get a course map, and you know, be an opportunity for them to kind of compete, but virtually.
Are we utilizing our EPOs, our environmental police officers?
They will be out there, yes.
Thank you. Anything else, Mike?
I appreciate the support I get from the water board. This is, you know, it's a privilege to be able to, you know, to do this work. This city is half forest and water, and there's, you know, it takes a small crew to keep it operating. But I appreciate the support I get from.
I would say it's a rather small crew. We wish, I think most of us wish we could enlarge it, but you know what budget restraints are like. Are there any questions from the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned?
Second the motion, roll call, Mr. Furley?
President Pearson,
Yes?
Member Ferrer,
Yes.
Member Pennell. I think
I believe he's offline.
Yep.
This meeting of the Watuppa Water Board is adjourned.